Horns up, talking Texas, Pod, Fisher, Tosopoulos, Snacks Kreider, the Quan Cosby, Gents, the rich get richer, A.D. Mitchell. Two-time national champion coming to the University of Texas.
Yep.
Can we talk about that a little bit? That's weird to me, right?
It's weird. That's what I'm saying. Like, do you think it's because, like, is it a situation where he feels he's not going to get the reps and the potential stats and looks he'll need to go to the pros in that offense and the new quarterback change? Like, does he think that Sark is the kind of offensive mind to get him there to the pros? Like, what would you think that mindset would be, Q?
Dude, I've first and foremost, like we said, we're so happy that we got him. I got to be real about that. If it's going to happen, it needs to happen for us. I did hear there might have been some personal reasons that he wanted to get back to Texas. He's a Texas kid. Certainly could be the case. And quite frankly, as weird as this sound, where do you go from Georgia? You went back-to-back natties. You can come over here and make a difference, maybe get some NIL, but more than anything, be closer to home. If you got a little homesick and a room that, although stacked in theory, we love Worthy, but he took a step back. I'm absolutely pulling for Jay Witt to catch 80 balls this year. I want that more than anything for him for staying. Nayer's probably coming back, but he had an injury last year. So I think there's a lot of room. And last but not least, to your point, Sark in the receiver room being that stack. You go back to his last year at Alabama, it was every bit of stacked, if not even more intense. With Smith and Waddle. And I mean, they had 6 rotating guys who were beasts. And so you can't have enough of those guys, and you don't want the drop off. So maybe that's what they're doing. It's cool because I'm gonna tell you how big a deal this is. Other than the surface, dude, we don't have a receivers coach right now. Isn't that cool? We just landed a guy on that level. We don't even have a receivers coach. So kudos to what Sark and them are selling. And like I said, as weird as it is, I don't understand this generation of leaving a team you just won a national championship with. But I'm glad he came to us.
Well, I think there's definitely a lot of different factors that come into it. Maybe he wants to be the guy at Texas because there's not really a guy that stands out. As you mentioned, X kind of took a step back. But I've also heard something like, this is through baseball too. Like the San Diego Padres have never won a World Series. And like Xander Bogaerts was eager to come to San Diego and help bring the first championship back to San Diego. Nelson Cruz just signed a 1-year deal. And he also wants to, bring a championship to San Diego, be part of that first generation that does that. There might be an element of bringing Texas football back to a guy who's from Texas, like AD, right? Where he grew up probably maybe somewhat of a Texas fan, or at least, had rumblings of watching Texas games his entire youth, where he wants to be part of that generation that brings us back with Arch Manning, with Quinn Ewers, And there's really some, there's not a ton of certainty of, what the future is going to be with Georgia's new quarterback, with him and that, Quinn is definitely maybe the best shot he's got at getting a really good quarterback, and same as Arch, is getting some good pro film.
Yeah, look, guys are open in our system. It's not like Worthy's not open, right? It's either overthrown or he's dropping balls. Maybe if you're A.D. Mitchell, go, okay, I'll bank on Quinn taking that next step, and I'll get in that room where it was like Waddle and Devonta Smith at Alabama doing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the touchdown play. If Quinn can put it together, not only is Worthy going to be open, A.D. Mitchell is going to be open. Then you have Sanders. We have Nayer coming back, who he could probably ease back in and hopefully use like in a playoff type game, right? Or like down the line when it really matters and counts. And then we have all these, incoming freshmen plus Brendan Thompson plus Casey Kane and Red. Like it really is, a good rotation of guys to keep fresh legs, which is pretty exciting. Mike, we always talk about Witt on the show, and he's coming back for his senior year. And you said you're hoping for an 80 catch season, Q.
Yeah.
What was some of your
80, knowing the role he's played? That's a lot more first downs.
Yeah,
that's a lot of more first downs, a lot of more points.
What were some of the adjustments you made from your junior to senior year? Obviously, because you break 1,000 your senior year, right? You make a massive jump in your production.
I think it was a couple of things. One, a year older of Colt McCoy. That was always big. We did a few things the same, but the Oklahoma game, we started moving me and Jordan all over the place. We were in the slot. We went more spread. Even in the trips, 11 personnel, I'd play X, I'd play Y, I'd play Z. And we were all, so we just got a little more creative from that perspective because Chris Overnight was a baller. But our O-line was a little suspect at times. And so finding different ways to get the ball out of Colt's hands faster was what Greg Davis, decided to do. And then on a personal level, I was older, man, and I was actually, it's funny you said, I was going to talk to Jay Witt about this because the dude's faster, he's a beast, and he's slimmed down a little bit from the extra muscle guy, but I still think he has some more in the tank. And what that'll do for him as a slot, and he's about 5'11", 6 foot. That's a really good slot, and they're drafting slots these days. So just talk to him a little bit about embracing that role, being that dude, asking for the ball in those times. And not that I did it a lot because we were usually on the same page, but yeah, I mean, my senior year, I was like, I go back to my game-winning touchdown versus Ohio State. Colt went to Brandon Collins in the first half when they sent that zero blitz, and at halftime, I think I told y'all, we had a little conversation, and I was like, hey, bro, yeah, don't do that again. And fortunately, it ended up working itself out. So I think it's a little bit mental. I think it's a little bit mental, but that's what Jay Witt will have going towards, for himself. And not only that, his versatility of he's not Deebo Samuels, but with Herman, I will say he put him in the backfield sometimes. Yeah. He demanded just a different level and his skill set can go all over the place. So I'm pumped about it all. I think it's first world problems. And I think there's room for everybody. I do think my man Quinn Ewers is going to progress. I think he's going to do a lot better. And it's going to be some fun times. And we haven't even got on the O-line yet. So it's still weird to me, but at the same time, and going back to him winning the championships there, bringing Texas back to what you were talking about, Nick, the truth of the matter is he come back here. If we're being real honest about where our mindset is, it's not even about winning a natty. If he come back here and they win the Big 12, right? Hell, he'll be loved forever, sure. And that's where we are. So, yeah, maybe that's the mindset of like, hey, if I can get back and we can win even a conference championship, likely our last year in the conference, that'd be a big deal for a long time.
Yeah, we talked about so many names in that wide receiver room, and there's so many guys, and it's the most crowded that I've seen this room in a long time in terms of talent, right? You got Jonte Cook coming in, you got Niblett coming in, you got the guy Moore coming over from Louisville who flipped. We've already mentioned Whittington and Xavier, now 80 and Nair, right? And Casey Kane and Savion. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Hey, we haven't even mentioned Sanders, tight end.
Exactly. Well. And so I mean, if you're this coaching staff and you're Texas, how do you keep all these, egos and personalities, at bay when the guys aren't getting their playing time that they want? Because ultimately, look, we want to keep these guys for the future, and I'm certain that the freshmen understand that they got to wait their turn. But what do you do in this situation?
Man, you really win. As simple as that. I mean, they're just not
winning cures all.
Winning cures all, man. And you spread it around. There were games where I'll have 11 catches and a touchdown, and Ship would have 4 to 5, or Brandon Collins will have 9. And in the end, if you are the offensive mind that we all believe Sark is, everybody will find a way. To your point about the guys at Bama, they had such a cohesive, and I think going back to this, culture. If you have the right culture, those guys weren't arguing about who got the ball more. They knew they all were going to eat. Some days they got it. Some days the other guy got it. But what they had is, hey, we're going to go win a championship, and this is going to take every single one of us. And it's weird. It very, very rarely happens like it did with me and Ship, where both of us are 90-plus catches, 10, 12 touchdowns, and over 1,000 yards. Like, that was weird. It almost looked scripted because they were so close. But it just kind of happened like that. It truly did. And if they try to roll coverage to me, Ship was going to eat that day. You saw it. I crack up because one of the plays that I'm known for is that crackback block on Oklahoma. Well, the reason I was set up for that, because they were rolling coverage to me all the time. So I ran them off. I knew there was one chance in hell I was getting the ball. So that's why I was able so far down the field to where I was coming back and I could crack back for Ship. And so when you really get down to the technical aspect of the way some of this stuff happens, it should work itself out. And if you think about, I mean, good Lord, who are you going to cover? I mean, how are you going to cover every single one of these dudes? So if Quinn progresses mentally like he could, everybody can need him. In theory, it sounds funny. You're like, oh, if you can get 35, dude, if you're scoring 45 points a game, I mean, which with these level of talent, you only get 7 every touchdown. So that's a lot of different people scoring. And it's never really broke down on that level, but that's a lot of different people getting at least 1, or 2. And so it can still work itself out.
Inevitably, like, certain guys are going to become the starters. Like, we're not going to rotate 7 receivers into a game, at least.
Unless you want me to bang my head on this wall. That's what Tom Herman used to do, and it drove me crazy.
Yeah. So I just, like, it's going to be Xavier. It's going to be Whittington, Sanders. Like, they're going to get all of them 90% of the snaps.
Yeah, but then you could run in like a guy like 80 when you run 4, when you run 3 in a tight end, and then you could rotate them like dealer's choice, whoever's having a better day or whoever's healthy.
I mean, it's fun to say
run a
now,
guy 60 yards down the field, your other guy pops in, and you never skip a beat.
But if we're winning, right? Like, we don't have the luxury yet of being a school where the last 2 years we can just rotate anyone and everyone in. Like, we have to win, and we have to we have to win the first half, we have to win the second half, we have to win the game. Like, and whoever does that, whoever executes the most should get the most PT. I get, like, it's great. We have a luxury of riches from a talent standpoint, but, like, I got to see it from an execution standpoint from all these guys.
Oh yeah, I don't need auditions out here, honestly. If that's what you're saying. Like, I don't need
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't need different guys popping in and out just to see what they got. I'd rather win the damn football game. That's that.
Oh no, for sure. And I don't think anybody wants that. But what I'm saying is, we've had the other issue. If you hear CDC talk, oh, we essentially lost 2 classes between guys in the portal between this. We're back. I laugh because Kirby Smart said it. In his last year's national championship, what's different? I got better players. So ultimately, you have to get better players. And yes, they have to execute. They have to take care of business. But let's all hope we're paying these guys the big bucks. And what they've known, I'll tell you a prime example. Our defense this year versus last year, you want that level of development. Our special teams versus 3 years ago, now on the offensive side of things with a now experience and veteran Quinn Ewers or whomever's going to be that person, I tell you what, if they're not in the mix on this level with this level of talent, we're gonna have bigger issues because they are. Huh?
I was gonna say that was gonna be my next question. Is this nut up or shut up for Sark? I'm sorry to say it like that, but are we at that point with this kind of level of talent?
We're not, because we have to give somebody time, but at the same time, again, they have to execute. You're right on, Toss, but these guys have shown this is not a situation where they're all freshmen. You got transfers. Right. You got all this guy won that. He has a touchdown in a national championship game. So they've shown that they can execute.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just saying is, like, last year, if I look at our season, like, I didn't feel like our receivers were, like, that position group was lacking. I mean, I think Xavier, like, certainly didn't perform at the level that we expected him to, but, like, Witt had a good season. Sanders, I think next year will be taken potentially in the first round and should be looked at that from the tight end position. He's that talented. Like, we missed Nair. I felt like we were missing that third guy, right? Or that fourth guy if you're lumping Sanders in there too. Like, Kane had some plays in each game, but he wasn't always on the field. No. But he certainly shined and when he got the opportunity. So now I think, like, one of those guys, whether it's Mitchell or Nair, healthy now, or Jonte, whoever it is, steps into that kind of fourth receiver role and really exceeds. And then we're rolling out a crew. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's what you were saying about Bama, right? Because at the time they had Smith, Ruggs, Waddle, right? Yeah. Mechie waiting,
Judy.
So I think that's what I'm saying. If we have 5 good, consistent guys, I don't want a rotation in it, but you really, truly have to have 5 good dudes to get it done. And for once, I think we are there. I think you say we weren't lacking, but if Worthy didn't have a good game, they weren't pulling them.
Yeah.
And there were several games that in my opinion, he should have sat down. And it, mainly from an effort standpoint, like the ball would dude, lay out for it. You know what that'll mean for your team. So now we're going to be in a position. I think competition forever helps a room, and I think you absolutely have that now. I mean, the level that Jordan and I went at it towards each other, and who's going to get open, who's going to compete, even on 101s. I mean, we the things that we jotted down per our day of getting better and working. I think they can have that and create that. And even we haven't talked about the defensive side, but our DBs, they're not going to see consistently on game day what they're going to see all week long, in my opinion, if these guys continue to grow and develop on that level. So they should inherently get better.
Yeah. That's like kind of the point you always say, Q, like you guys practiced against the best, so you were prepared to play the best with whatever.
Iron sharpen iron all the time. On game day, I was like, dude, thank God A. Ross is not standing right there. I'm about to tear your ass up. Let's go. I mean, it truly, I told y'all, I told guys that, like, nah, you're not Earl Thomas, dude. Sorry, but let's go. And so that's the beauty that can happen organically when you have these level athletes. And I think I told Jamal our very first day, we're both freshmen rolling in, and Jamal was like, yeah, Q, I was an All-American. I was like, here I am, 22, 23 years old. And I was like, hey, Jamal, you're right, dude. I heard you're a baller. You're fast. But if you don't listen to anything else I have to say, when we get on this field, everybody's going to be All-American. And that's a damn good thing.
It's everyone, like the whole crew is like, it's crazy. Like our quarterback's a top 3 highest recruit ever coming out of high school. And he's probably only behind the guy that's going to be behind him. Realistically. So like everyone's an All-American. Everyone was the best, not only in their high school, obviously, but maybe in their state at certain points. And it's great that we're not talking about the defense because we don't have to. Because realistically, we return Ford. Sorrell is another year under his belt. Catalan joins the
transfer,
mix. Yeah. Barron's there. Like
Watts come back.
Watts is back. Like our defense, for by and large, is very, outside of losing Overshawn.
I think we got better.
Yeah, our defense is going to get better. Like, and the same with the offensive line. They're 2 position groups and sides of the football that we're not really talking about, because the whole anticipation is, okay, you're just going to get older a year, so you're going to get better a year. Like that's what you were saying pretty much with Colt McCoy. Like Colt just grew up a little bit. And so like the whole Christian Jones comes back, surefies the right side of the offensive line. And then plus you have Kelvin Banks is a guy that we talked about. Okay, this could be a top 5 draft pick someday, which is something we haven't had on the offensive line in God knows how long.
Dude,
I don't know if we ever had that.
Yeah.
Hey, we talk a lot about Bijan on here, and Bijan earns it. He's one of the best people and one of the best players. But we don't talk enough about the big uglies. And Banks may be a lineman version of that dude. For him to come in as a freshman and to ball out like that, I mean, that is, dude, I finally looked at the numbers the other day, and maybe 1 sack. I don't know that it's no more than 1, maybe 2.
It's the most you could have asked for out of a freshman, for sure.
Yeah.
He exceeded expectations. It's the most you could have asked for out of a freshman.
Yeah.
At left tackle.
Like the hardest position on the field.
And in a Big 12 where like the kid from K-State could be a first-round pick, the kid from Texas Tech could be a top 10 pick. Like there's a massive talent just because the numbers are gaudy and high.
He owned Will Anderson. He is going to be a top 3 pick.
Yeah, I didn't even get to Bama yet.
Like that dude was Will flipped to the other side at one point. Like, I don't want to go against that freshman anymore. No, let's be real. Will did that all the time. I mean, they moved him around, but still, he got 0 sacks on that freshman.
I mean, that dude was special. That was great. That was a great showing out of our line to like keep that Bama defensive line at bay, because look, we always say it, like the SEC defensive linemen are a whole different, beast out there, and all those guys, are going to go to the pros someday. So that was a really good test for our line.
Yeah, I did want to say one thing. You brought up Bijan, and could be a very maybe dumb thought, and I don't want to discredit him to being an absolute unbelievable talent, one of the best we've ever seen. I'm just curious. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe losing Bijan creates a little more mystique in our offense, a little more room for different guys and different kinds of touches, and less of a heavy focus.
One-dimensional.
Like it's similar to like when like the Lions lost Megatron. They're like, there's no denying that Calvin Johnson is one of the greatest receivers. He's in the Mount Rushmore of wide receivers of NFL football. But
now you have to guess who they're throwing to.
Now it opened things up a little bit for like guys like Golden Tate, Marvin Jones was there. Like it opened up the Lions offense in a weird way. So I'm curious just to see, no one has to answer that right now, but if that happens, if
weirdly, man,
it's a silly thought.
Well, no, I'm gonna tell you, take that thought to another level. One thing, losing Bijan, I get what you're saying. I'll actually say losing Bijan and him not playing in that bowl game absolutely solidifies it, because they realize the role he played, the team we were with him and Roche in there. We were not the same team in San Antonio, and it was not a good look. So now our coaching staff, again, while they're adding every receiver they can and everyone they can get in, but they're going to have to – Bijan won't be able to take the load of making 4 guys miss and getting positive yards. So we all need to get better as a staff, as an offense in those situations, and spreading it around and making sure we use all of our weapons. Because we really – Tosh, you actually made a good point. We did have a pretty decent receiver room last year, and maybe they weren't fully utilized like they could have been because 5 was in the backfield and he was going to be the future.
Oh, I mean, yeah. If anyone thought that going into this season that we weren't going to see a lot more wide receiver screens this season, like we're going to see a lot more things besides just letting Bijan go out of the gun and hand him the ball and have him make a play, which he always did, right? Like that's the one thing. And when we don't have him, like it showed us how much more important those Xavier Worthy drops were, those Quinn Ewers missed throws. Like you don't have the guy on second. If you didn't run on first, you take a shot. And then on second, you don't have the guy that can get you 7 yards every time. Like you got to figure out other things. Like it's just because you can't be in that 3rd and 8+ with Quinn or whoever it is every single drive. It just won't work.
Yep.
Yeah. The whole Bijan. Yeah. I mean, he got 4 yards, 5 yards every time. And it's like, it wasn't like, okay, he didn't have a great game, but we still pulled it out, and Quinn and the receivers were able to step up and make it happen. And the games where Bijan was bad or had a poor stat line were the games we lost. Like if he had a bad game, we were done. Like we lived and died by him almost in certain aspects. So I'm curious to see if we get a few more dimensions out there just by force, by they're forcing our hand in that regard by circumstance. All right, real quick thoughts. We'll start with you, Q. Some thoughts on our basketball team. We clearly, is it crazy to say we haven't missed a beat? At all things considered, this team has done as admirable a job as possible.
Dude, we're 5-2 in the Big 12, man. I'm telling you. And now we're about to see even more of that gauntlet. We're going to have Okie State tomorrow in the Mood, and then you're going to go to a top 5 Tennessee in Knoxville, and then you go to both Kansases. It's going to get real. So I'm going to reserve, haven't skipped a beat till after that. But at the same time, not really, because even if we don't lose our head coach and all that, it was going to be the same. They're going to be the same schedule. They're going to have to take care of business. And I take that back. I digress. I agree. We have not. It hadn't looked like it did early on versus the Gonzagas of the world, but win, baby, win. And we found a way to win on the road versus West Virginia. Having a tough year, but still the Big 12 is real. So it's cool to be in the position that we're in.
And you got to win those games. And all the games that we've lost this season, you look at the schedule and look, were we predicted to lose that game? Maybe not. But are you surprised we lose that game? No. I mean, those aren't terrible losses. Like they're quality teams that are beating us, right? The Illinois loss, the Kansas State loss, who has been playing
way better than people thought.
Way better than people thought. And of course, Iowa State's
leading the Big 12 right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Iowa State, which is, again, a really tough place to go and play.
Right, exactly. And so I think those are really good, look in the mirror games too.
We were home against Iowa State.
But like, they're good look in the mirror games, right? Where you try to find your identity. And look, we're still overcoming that adversity that we lost our head coach mid-season.
In a crazy
and we're
way.
still a very competitive team.
There are 10 teams in the Big 12,
Yeah.
right? Kansas State is the highest ranked team right now. They're the number 5 team in the country. Texas, Kansas, Iowa State, TCU, Baylor, all ranked ahead of the top 20.
Yeah.
So like if that just tells you 6 of our 10 teams are top 20 teams in the nation.
I mean, TCU's putting together, that was a good one on our part because they've absolutely smacked Kansas, who's a really good basketball team. Obviously, the Baylor team, unbelievably well coached. They have a guy, Keontae George, who's been fantastic freshman, who's only continuing to get better.
Yep.
And for me, I would say the only issue that I would like to bring up, and it's not even just an issue of this year, it's like almost an issue like we seemingly see year after year. We just don't do a great job of developing or implementing our freshmen. Like, I'm just not getting what I want out of Dylan Mitchell or Morris. Like, I feel like there's talent there. The talent is there.
And that's kind of been the trend as well. Like when we had Mo Bamba, right?
Greg Brown.
When we had Miles Turner was like, he was good.
Miles Turner was kind of different than the rest
but
of
not
guys.
like the number 2 prospect.
Right, exactly.
Played a lot. He was our best player.
Jared Allen.
Yeah, Jared Allen is clearly way better in the NBA than, that'd be my takeaway.
Especially because all these dudes got to the league and balled out after being
I mean, it's tough with those big guys that are so athletic because there's just not a lot of space on the college court.
Right.
Like if you give Mitchell a full like baseline to work with, like in the NBA, he can beat guys step for step because he's just so athletic. Like it's tough. It's tough for them.
Look, if you're a 5-star, if you want to be a one and done, you can't go in a game and have no points, no buckets. He didn't score last game.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
like you're not going to get drafted. You're not going to be a lottery pick if you don't score in one game in your whole season.
I just bring up like you look at like the all-time college basketball players, the ones that didn't pan out in the NBA. A lot of times those guys are guards, and the reason why they could work in college basketball is because they can dribble, they can pass, they can shoot. But when they get into the bigs and they get to the NBA where the court is bigger, where things are more spread out, they can't take the other guys. They can't handle the other guys athletically. A guy like Jimmy Fredette, right? Like that guy averaged almost 30 points per game in college. Incredible. And then he goes to the NBA and he can't get it done.
2 weeks too slow.
Exactly. So it's just like, it's part of it. And unfortunately Mitchell isn't a guy that can really handle the basketball. He's a
well, that's what I was about to say. So if we think about Mitchell though, and you're saying it's the court, what does he do except, and again, everybody needs to develop all that. I went to school during Durant's era, so that's just not even fair to kind of even throw that out there. But I kind of knew who Durant was. I knew what he was capable of. What is it that Mitchell does that maybe Coach Terry should highlight a little bit more? Bring him off the bench. That's another thing. He's kind of coming off the
lobs
bench.
At him.
But I listen. He'll catch a dunk on everybody's business. We do understand that, but I think Jericho Sims, he was older. He could jump on top of the roof and he'd catch dunks and all that. But he also kind of made an identity for being tough and getting rebounds and just doing other things in the game. I guess that's where I'm just still athletically, I've seen it. I love seeing that dude. I think at one point he caught up one off the rim and his eyes were looking down in it. But I'm not sure what he does so well that
I'm sure like
the coaches would change.
The coaches know what to tell him, right? Like they see this every single day in practice, obviously. But I mean, what I would tell him is like, anytime we get a defensive rebound, you run and you get ahead of everyone else. Like, and anytime Marcus is driving to the basket, you be in the opposite block, ready to catch a lob or ready to, if you get the ball and he slips you the ball because he gets double teamed when he's driving, like attack. Do not hesitate.
We're in that with Dessou now. So you're actually making a point. Being on the other side of the rim, catching lobs and all that. Bishop, Dessou, they're doing that.
Well, Bishop's been a great cleanup off the bench. Like he's actually, I was like, to me, another thing is like we're so guard heavy and like I've almost given up on our bigs, but Bishop actually has been very strong and very aggressive and very physical down
But
low.
He's also got how many years has he played college basketball?
The thing with Mitchell is like he almost
4 years. Like he's had 4 years to play at that level, to play with that physicality, to work on his body to get that much bigger. Like
that was Sims, dude. How wide was Sims when he like?
Sims also just like 6'11" too.
The thing with Mitchell is like he's so athletic and he's so raw. He's just too slight to play really post basketball.
It was the same thing with Greg Brown.
Yeah, like you can't.
He sounds like Greg Brown.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's kind of what it is.
Brown, at least he thought he could shoot.
yeah. He
was not afraid to jack one up.
Yeah, There might be a confidence thing as well right now, like with Mitchell, like
totally
demanding the ball more, right? Like obviously Marcus has the ball more than anyone on our whole entire team.
And Tyree and Hunter after.
Right, exactly. But like with Mitchell, like if you're in that situation, like demand the ball a little bit, right? Like I think he only took 2 shots this last game.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to, I think Toss's diagnosis of like, we get a defensive rebound, you're on the court, you run, not only to try to get that, outlet pass, get that lob, get that dunk, get that quick bucket, but also draw a defender in and give an easier 3-point shot for a guy like Carr. If he gets manned up, like kick it out to Jabari Rice, who should be running down the court as well. And hopefully have an open 3 for him or Hunter, like really get an easy 3 in transition there. Like if that's how we're going to play our game.
Yeah. We touched on it. We touched on it earlier too. And this had been talked about a little bit with relationships. I think he played a lot better when Beard was there. So if him and Beard were that close and him being a freshman, I think Beard played a massive role into getting him here. If that relationship is gone, that factors into confidence and rotation and how he best be utilized. So that's the tough piece of it is that, that situation happens. So maybe that's in his head a little bit.
Absolutely. But let's get that win against Oklahoma State, keep the train rolling in the Big 12 again, like winning those games, like you said, Nick, but are must-win games, like again, against good teams, but still must-win games in the Big 12. Q, always a pleasure, big dog.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em horns. Cosby, Fisher, DeSoplis, Snacks, Crider. We'll see you guys next time.